Hello, Astro friends. Melanie here on the 28th of May 2025. And it is quite a transition time we're in on several levels. You could say also from the weather. We're having today the really first day of summer here on the West Coast. There was a bit on Saturday, but today it's getting really warm. Early precursor of summer. We're welcome in my world. And we having today, as I'm speaking, actually within the next 10 minutes, the transition from the Gemini moon, which has been also the new moon 2 days ago, that we are integrating, and the moon crosses over what I call the nesting point from Gemini to Cancer. Nesting in terms of all these coming and goings, all these flyings and walkabouts, and being out and about either physically or on our minds, and coming back home into ourselves, maybe literally also making our home a more beautiful, a more cozy, a more welcoming place, a place where we belong. And the moon crossing into Cancer is also a precursor of Mercury crossing from Gemini into Cancer on June the 8th, and on June the 9th, Jupiter crossing from Gemini into Cancer. So this is the first wave on a lunar level, on an emotional level, which comes every month. So maybe you're feeling that transition into maybe also literally coming to the water, going to the water would be beautiful on any Cancer moon day. I mean, on any day, but maybe especially after the draw, the pull to the water, to the seashore, to where we can also come to the ocean mama with all our thoughts and feelings, and things are being taken care of and processed, and we come out, we come back refreshed and renewed. And then of course Mercury, but Mercury is still very, very active in Gemini. In fact, we have this week on the 30th, in 2 days, we have the alignment, sorry, on the 29th, tomorrow, we have the alignment of the Sun and Mercury, and that comes 3 times a year. On that side, in other words, 3 times a year when Mercury is not retro right now, and also 3 times a year when Mercury is retro. So this is now the phase when Mercury is the fastest. As you see, it's not very long in Gemini. That just started. When did Mercury go into Gemini? On the 25th, on Sunday, and will be there only until the 8th of June, 2 weeks, right? Versus has been so long in Pisces and Aries, as you remember, late winter, early spring, February, March, super long in Pisces. That's when Mercury was retrograde. And now Mercury is not, and Mercury is the speediest at its pace, plus also in Gemini, which is very swift. So a lot can happen in the mental sphere right now, and with the Sun also illuminating all of this. But we have to, this is a fair warning, when Mercury passes the Sun on this superior conjunction, it's called, so in the forward motion, in the non-retro motion, then the mind can take even more charge, right? So now Mercury is ahead of the Sun. When Mercury passes the Sun in retro, Mercury will go behind the Sun in the zodiac. So now very mental, lots of thoughts, lots of news, lots of things out in the informational realm, communicational realm. So let's not have the mind, and especially the ego mind, go into the driver's seat too much and convince us of all sorts of things. Let's definitely also back it up with the heart, with spirit, with consciousness, which is the Sun. And yes, it can be also a very bright energy in general, right? So bright mentally, bright solar and heart-wise beautiful way of expressing the Sun Mercury experience this week. Yes, we're coming out of the Gemini also, right? New moon. And that has been also quite a catalyst for several shifts. Gemini is a transitional energy from spring to summer, of course, right? Ruled by Mercury, and so it's a swift, it's a non-attached energy. It's out. It's very light and up there, right? It's like wings attached, no strings attached. Then the Gemini new moon, showing you still that chart again, which we just had less than 2 days ago. We're integrating that now as the moon is slowly waxing, coming out as the young moon, the first sliver of the moon. We could see her tonight and slowly growing. So, but now a quick flashback to the Gemini new moon on the 26th in the evening. So check that out. Sun, moon together, and Mercury coming up towards the sun, and also Uranus is coming out of Taurus here slowly but surely, and going for its first phase into Gemini as well. So this is kind of a whole cuspy experience here. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018, so this is also big news for the year, together with something else that I mentioned in a little while. And I call this cusp from Taurus to Gemini the voice point, so finding our voice, voicing something. Also noticing the voices in nature, being a spokesperson, being a voice for nature, for any being that cannot voice their own needs, like forests, trees, plant beings. So anything that needs a human voice also at this point would be apropos. And then, yes, Uranus is being accentuated by this new moon, is being pulled almost into Gemini as well. And Uranus will go into Gemini from July the 7th until November the 7th as a prelude, as a little trine phase, and fully from April 26, 2026 on for the following 7 years. So this is big news, a big deal. Also, when Uranus comes out of Taurus, where it has been traditionally and also as we've seen, not very comfortable and actually stirring up the pot of anything that traditionally gives stability and comfort on the physical level, and has been very disruptive, right? So disruptive to the economy, to biology, to nature, all things that we actually, and definitely also in terms of comfort, right? And maybe it has also given you more freedom, right? Ways of embodying freedom, finding joy in all of this, despite and on another level, right? So detaching ourselves from all the disruption without getting too, how to say, out of touch with reality, right? And so Uranus is enlightening, awakening. Of course, also it has brought wake-up calls, right, to anything Taurian. And if you have Taurus, Sun, Moon, planets, ascendant, and so on, you would have noticed that Uranus trip in the last 7 years. Now you probably notice the shift also as Uranus is making its first move into Gemini. So yeah, Uranus is a revolutionary energy, so it can be also, as I said, even for the motto of the Gemini new moon, revolutionary alchemy with Uranus in Gemini. And here precursor with that new moon in Gemini, because Gemini is an alchemist. Why? It deals a lot with dualities, with polarities, with dichotomies, with dialogues, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So how can we bring what seems to be polar opposite together? It's like the yin and yang. It's like what seems to divert, also diversion in terms of even distraction, right? What can pull us apart? How can we bring that together and into a synthesis where the parts are more than the total, the union is more and better than the sum of its parts, which in a way is also Aquarius systemic thinking. And but with Gemini, it's more about this duality, and it can be often like two sides in us when we have something in Gemini, and the journey would be to actually have them not just dialogue with each other, but also find the common ground and come together in a new way that the two individually couldn't create, right? So Gemini being also the third sign in the zodiac, after Aries being ruled by Mars and Taurus being ruled by Venus, right? So Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is also an alchemist and a trickster and a connector, right? Connecting this and that, connecting the dots, the puzzle pieces. So yeah, it can be, of course, very mental. Then yeah, so this Gemini new moon, alchemy. Where is alchemy in your life now, showing up to be yeah, to be integrated, right? So if Gemini is in your 11th house, for example, that would be all about groups, society, friendships, right? So you might feel scattered in that regard, or you might feel like, oh, there's all these different components and different people. How does that even go together? What do they have in common? So it might be actually all in your mind, right? And the trick would be here also to keep it light, be curious, and be interested in ask questions, right? Ask yourself questions, ask them questions, go into dialogue, see what you can cook up with together. Then when you have Gemini in your first house, then you have Gemini rising maybe, or Taurus rising, but Gemini in your first house, all of this is about you, right? So how do I bring together these different parts of me, right? And learn, especially with Jupiter in Gemini. In its really last weeks of Gemini, has been since end of May last year, 1 year now, and Jupiter leaving Gemini on June the 9th. So now halfway into the Gemini season, we also have Jupiter in Gemini. So again, understanding and seeing the bigger picture beyond all these diverging avenues and even division in the mental, in the news, in the intellectual, in the cognitive realms, right? And so Jupiter helps us to learn. One of the mottos I gave Jupiter in Gemini, still true, is lifelong learning. And I talked to a Gemini friend on the weekend. He said, yeah, for sure, that's been super enhanced this year for me. I learned so much. And we can also offer gratitude for that, right? So this is again Jupiter. And Jupiter will go out of Gemini into Cancer, while Uranus is about to go into Gemini, right? So this will be interesting for anybody with Gemini energy. And and then, of course, transition, right? We're in such a transition year. You might think, yeah, she's saying that, everybody's saying it, but now we really have indicators. So the indicator I'm talking about, that also the Gemini new moon catalyzed, is Saturn freshly in Aries, out of Pisces. Saturn left Pisces for Aries for the first time again on May 24th to almost join Neptune here. Right? We still have the North Node here back in Pisces, but both Saturn and Neptune are now right on this cusp, the very first degree of Aries, which I call the emergence point, where new life emerges, where the new zodiac cycle starts. The very first degree of the cycle is super relevant. And Saturn now there. You might also notice there's more evidence with Saturn, more concrete evidence rather than just a sense, a vague wave with Neptune, but actually some evidence, some concrete manifestations about we are transitioning, we are moving into a new era. Why am I saying that? Yes, there's various indicators. Saturn and Neptune will come together twice on this very first degree of the zodiac. First, already in July, the closest, July 12th, when Saturn will be the furthest in the zodiac this year and going retro, and Neptune is nearby, not even a degree apart. 156 and 209, I believe, or 207. Aries in July, super relevant. And then once again, that time exactly, just barely at 1 degree on February 20th, 2026. So 2 markers for transition into a new era. Not quite the start, but definitely a transition energy, because both Saturn and Neptune will go back into Pisces one more time. For Saturn, it will be September 1st until Valentine's, February 14th next year. And for Neptune, it will be October 22nd this year until January 26, 2026. And then, as I said, they unite on February 20th next year. So this is quite the transition here. And Saturn and Neptune only come together every 37 years. The last time was 1989, when the wall came down, when the socialist communist regimes of Central and Eastern Europe crumbled and dissolved and disintegrated Neptune, while a new structure was emerging and being built. At that time, it was in Capricorn, and Uranus was also in Capricorn, while Jupiter was in Cancer. So this was very relevant. And I wrote an article, a bit longer, but hopefully with lots of nuggets from history for Saturn and Neptune's union in early Aries. I wrote that over the weekend, so I invite you to check that out. And that will also contain Saturn in Aries, so all these historic cycles. Saturn in Aries last time every 29 years, Neptune in Aries every 165 years. So last time was actually in the 1860s to early 1870s. American Civil War was really critical at that time. And then, of course, also their cycles together every 36, 37 years. What does that mean? What could this mean for this time? So, yeah, again, I invite you to check out that bigger backdrop article. And again, yes, the Gemini new moon catalyzes this, gives it a first, initiatory boost. Then we have this week. What's going on now? As I said in the Astro News by email, sent out yesterday to all you who have signed up. You're most welcome to do that still, and receive that. As I said, the new moon energy here, 26th, 27th, it's kind of now integrating more, and the full moon, next full moon, around the 11th of June are the most intense times in this little cycle of 2 weeks, right? So the Astro News always comes out for every full moon and new moon. And in this case, as I said, new moon itself, full moon itself being the most intense energy. So things are integrating a bit. What else is going on this week? As I said, there's Mercury Sun is one of the highlights on the 29th. Then we have also on the 1st of June, Venus still in Aries, believe it or not, but she leaves soon. She leaves on June the 5th for Taurus, where she's very happy and comfortable. But she's been for a long time in Aries, obviously for a reason. And she will now unite with Chiron and Aries, ERIS. Um, so the Chiron Aries connection is also something to reckon with, and that is the wounded healer archetype comes together with the um, goddess of division and discord. What's in Aries, right? Aries has been in Aries for the longest time since the 1920s, and this goes on until 2040ish. Because Aries has a very slow orbit, almost twice as slow as Pluto. So for a super long time, all of our lifetimes, I could say, in Aries. So there has been so much war. There has been, as we know, right? I keep talking about it. Now the opportunity is with Chiron every 50 years in Aries to heal the wounds of war, to heal what makes wars possible. What's the origin of war? Where does it all start? And also to heal early wounds in our lives, and maybe early wounds relating even to our parents and grandparents having gone through wars. There's all these layers, right? And conflict. And so, what is the medicine of Aries from a Chiron perspective? New beginnings and also authenticity. So, sometimes war conflicts even happen when we are not really authentic in the first place. And so, how about that presence, cultivating presence, authenticity, being in the moment, and being ourselves, and showing up for ourselves, showing up for what calls us, right? And being assertive in a good way without needing to be aggressive and violent. Then we have now we're in the still in the first 10 degrees, the first decanate of Gemini until the 31st, and that has a Libra undertone. So this is all about themes like negotiation and really communicating, and the balance, the fairness about the in the realm of communication. This could be literally also peace negotiations. Yes, there have been some attempts there, and also to talk about what we have in common. That is also Venus, and what we both or all of us appreciate, love, enjoy, and in a peaceful way, in a harmonious way. Then from 1st to 10th of June, we have the central part of Gemini, which has an Aquarius undertone. So now the energy can shift towards being interested in, communicating, learning about what's going on in the system, what's going on in society, what's going on with friends, in groups. So maybe also literally coming together and having a good discussion and having a social time. All of that is very apropos as well. Definitely time to come together with friends. And yeah, then what's with the moon now this week? The moon has, the waxing, the young moon has moved from Gemini to Cancer as I'm speaking. So in other words, since 10:33 a.m. Pacific, the moon will be, it is already in her Cancerian mode, and all day, the rest of today, all day Thursday and Friday until 1:17 p.m. in Cancer. So this can be a very beautiful time to take care and feel also cared about. Take care of our needs, take care of our loved ones, of our home, and anything that is soothing, gentle, comforting, and caring, all right? And can be taking care of our bodies, our needs, and nurturing on an emotional level. Definitely a beautiful energy with Cancer coming in, since there's not too much going on in the water element now, except for Lilith in Scorpio and the North Node in end of Pisces. So yeah, yay to the Cancer moon. And then the moon goes into Leo just in time for the weekend. This will be from 1:17 p.m. on Pacific on Friday the 30th, all day Saturday, and Sunday until 8 p.m. So pretty much the whole weekend. The moon is in Leo, very celebratory, being out, and yeah, this would be a wonderful time also for any ceremony, but especially for having fun and actually enjoying the incoming summer. Hopefully, it is actually kicking in and wasn't just for today. So, but it's about being seen and loved, celebrating. A friend invited me to something, housewarming, very apropos, and music and dance, all of that. Very joyful energy, especially on Saturday when the moon in Leo will be in sextile with the Sun and Mercury in Gemini. So this is really cool. And then we have, as I said, on the 1st of June, Venus comes to Chiron and Aries. So this is also beautiful because then Venus passes. Venus is ahead, not Chiron Aries, right? So now let love, let let our fierce love, in fact, and fierce warrior goddess of love, Venus, take the lead in this case, where there's been so much division, where there's been so much wounding, and we don't want to contribute in our lives to that. Then the moon will go over the Sphinx point from Leo to Virgo, which she does once a month, and that will be on Sunday at 8 p.m. And this is turning the love, the passion of Leo, and into service, maybe into awareness, into health, wellness. So you might have gone a bit overboard with Leo, right? And then Virgo regulates that. Virgo says, let's come back to back to a healthy routine, back to something that is wellness oriented, and that is also not just about you, that also serves others. So being of service rather than being self-serving. And moon in Virgo will, though, when she comes towards the end of Virgo, which is on the 3rd, come together, or it could be on the 4th, so 3rd, 4th, overnight here Pacific. We'll connect with the South Node now in Virgo. As I said, the North Node is in Pisces. You can see it here again in the chart of the new moon. North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. So when the moon, here coming from Gemini, now in Cancer, then in Leo. Oh yeah, the moon will also meet Mars in Leo. When's that? Saturday. Saturday. Nope, actually on Sunday morning. But Saturday night, definitely gearing up for this moon Mars. Extra passion, yeah, for sure. Then the moon will go into Virgo, as I said, and eventually connect with the South Node here. And that'll be on the 4th, next Wednesday. And that can take us to a place of being too much concerned, too much problem focused, too much worrisome, and so many details, so much to look after, so many problems and issues. Then definitely important in balance with that, and moon going into Libra will naturally bring that balance even more to our attention. But in any case, balancing that with Pisces North Node, also relaxing, absorbing and tuning into better vibrations, into where we can receive grace and love and all these beautiful gifts and miracles even, right? versus being so much in this doing mode, the human doing, very Virgo on the South Node side, where we lose energy. Right? And yep, so the moon will then eventually on the 4th go into Libra. That's next week. And yeah, so if you have anything going on in early Aries, back to that Saturn, Neptune. I also have a chart here for Saturn entering Aries. That was on the 24th. And that was just building up to the new moon on the 26th. All right, so this is a 26, almost the same identical position, but in this case you have the new moon. So with that, over the summer, if you have anything early Aries, you definitely notice that, and I would invite you to check it out astrologically in your own understanding, or in a discussion, in a session together, or come to a parlor. I plan to do a Saturn, Neptune in Aries parlor on June the 3rd. That's a Tuesday. And you're most welcome. So especially if you have anything there going on, or sharing, gaining more understanding, meeting others, and exploring the astrology. This is what it's all about. So I wish you a beautiful week, and yeah, enjoy the sun, enjoy the spring to summer transition and all other transitions that are going on right now. And yeah, stay tuned, stay attuned to the universe, and yeah, all its gifts. Have a beautiful week, and hope to see you again soon. Ciao.